DeSantos.
It's number 6 with the disc near the end zone. DeSantos catching that disc. Great disc movement. You see how impactful that player can be at that level of play. Now, Toronto, great response. Scoring upwind, number 19, Reeve Chan, who scored that first CUUC point. We are tied at 1, McMaster having 1 break point, although. So we expected the game to start at 3:10, but hey, the organizer decided that no, we will kick it off right now. So the ultimate community is always flexible and easy to deal with. So are the commentators and the cameraman. Thanks for being there. And we appreciate all your work today here in the live stream booth. The sun is back.
So McMaster will be receiving, looking to score upwind. We have number 7, Britt DeSantos, on the pole. I'm sure she'll be chalking up tons of minutes in this game, in this final.
Look at that pull. Look at that hang time. McMaster were initially ranked 8th of this tournament, while Toronto was ranked 1st.
McPherson looking deep, and not a bad look, but Toronto is going to be able to take another shot into the downwind end zone.
DeSantos feeding Liao. Number 22 was the target, Chung. It's a McMaster disc. Turnover. Liao. DeSantos flicking it in the space to number 1, Toronto. Scoring a break point early in this final. So it's 2-1 Toronto after McMaster have scored their first break point. Early great response by Toronto, tying the game in regards of break points. So Toronto leading 2-1.
Both teams coming off of relatively close wins in the semifinal. Toronto facing against Queen's University for the second time in this tournament. Some of you may have seen the game yesterday that was streamed, but Toronto coming on top in this game 10-8. And then on the flip side, McMaster beating the University of Victoria 8-7. And we could hear a big celebration from over here in the booth, so we knew that it was probably a McMaster win, but really exciting for especially the McMaster program to be playing in this gold medal match. Toronto has been here before, and they'll be here again, so will McMaster, but it's always great to see changes in the division and new teams coming up for these big, big games.
And Naomi, as a player, you used to play with the Sixers, if I'm not mistaken, which is the competitive elite women's team from the Toronto area. Is there any players that you are familiar with on those respective rosters, or these are all players that you haven't had a chance to play with?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a sizable handful of Sixers players on the Toronto roster. They can probably string together almost a full line of Sixers players and players that have come up through the women's system, through the Toro junior system. And so it's really great to see. We love to see the movement in women's ultimate here. And that is a nice foot block from number 16, Jessica Gao. That is just an absolute stuff. And it'll be back to McMaster here on offense in their vertical stack, looking up the line and out into space but it's just going to float out the back of the end zone. It's that there's still a bit of a calm breeze pushing the disc that way. Currently not as windy as it has been. I'm sure it'll come back. We're seeing lots of clouds roll in on the left side of the field. And we actually may be expecting some more weather. There is some rain in the forecast for this time slot, so it may not be sunny for the whole game.
I just love the reaction of number 16 after foot blocking that disc. You just say, well, you know, I just did a foot block, and, you know, that's part of my job, so move on. Just love it. Toronto facing up the wind and McMaster zone defense. Stuck on the sideline. Number 12, Jessica Hu with the disc. Looking for a reset, looking for something. Goes for the hammer, but it lands on the ground. Midfield. McMaster back in possession. McMaster O-line looking to hold that possession and that point.
Number 1 with the disc, one of the handlers on McMaster, Sasha Palmer. And we have Goldstein on the disc for Toronto. Looking deep, way out into space, and it's a bit too much, but as the wind is starting to pick up again, it's not a bad look to throw down the huck, and it looks like McMaster is going to set up with a zone here, like a 4-person zone with number 16, Gao, on the mark. We know she has those feet to get the block, so we'll see what happens.
Her feet going up. Again, hammer time. Unfortunately, it lands on the ground for Toronto. McMaster will take the disc back at the brick mark line.
Yeah, interesting. We haven't seen a ton of hammers from this Toronto team when we watched them earlier today or even yesterday in the match. And a nice dig by Palmer. She's right on the end zone looking for an open player, but it looks like there is a pick call in the stack. So McMaster will need to organize a little bit here. Toronto will be applying a lot of pressure. And a nice cut out into space. McMaster with another goal, keeping this game nice and tight.
We are tied at 2 for this big final Canadian University Ultimate Championship Women's Division. Our previous assignment was featuring the men's final, where Montreal won over Queens. It was what was in a spectacular game that both teams had to fight up until the end to secure the victory for Montreal.
Yeah, McMaster.
What a great sideline, eh? We just love it.
Yeah, tons of energy from this McMaster team. They've had a great weekend so far. Coming into today, they were looking at 2-1 with wins over McGill and Waterloo and a loss to UVic, but coming back today and winning over UVic, winning out their quarterfinal and their semifinal to get here to the final. And it's been really great to watch their energy playing against this sort of perennial favorite, the Toronto team.
I don't know who's going to win that game, but so far in the stands, the cheering game goes to McMaster without any doubts. It seems like the whole open McMaster team is in the stands cheering for their women's team. Toronto, great disc movement after a high flying pass. Not too steady, but still completed. Dos Santos with the disc, faking it, dishing it for the point. Number 6 was the target, but just a little too high for Sarah Marr. And it will be McMaster possession, facing up Toronto's zone defense.
Yeah, Toronto playing this sort of diamond style defense that we've seen previously with a mark, straight up mark, making it very difficult to throw those big throws, as well as 2 sides and a top of the diamond, and that's a turnover right away. So Chan with the disc and back to Dos Santos.
Is there a pick call? Sarah Marr argues she was wide open, but the output is disc is going back to Dos Santos, wearing number 7. Disc is into play. Dos Santos feeding Leal, and great bid by Toronto, and it's confirmed by the observers. Toronto O-line securing their 3rd point of the game, taking once again a 1-point lead.
Really, really nice grab by Chan there.
Just love the way Toronto have a very disciplined vertical stack in the end zone, you know. No wasteless effort to try to get open. Just send one person, one target with tons of room for handler to feed that target. So great discipline from Toronto in the end zone.
Yeah, that's great to see. But on the flip side, we have seen Toronto stack a little bit too disciplined when they're going upfield outside of the end zone, forcing some of those hammers or less favorable throws. So while it's really great to see in the end zone, hopefully they can generate a bit more movement against the McMaster defense. We'll see what the Toronto defense does right now up against McMaster, who will be going downwind into the end zone on your right-hand side.
Sunny but windy here in Brampton, Ontario. Toronto's pool rolling off the midfield mark. McMaster firing it long, but out of reach of the intended receiver, setting their zone. Dos Santos looking for a target, going flick sideways to Chung. Chung to Dos Santos, so keeping possession here, but it's number 16 who could not handle that pass. Jenny Lee. McMaster.
So Palmera picking up the disc right on the sideline. That flick is going to be challenging. She's putting it out into space, but because of that wind picking up, really gusting right now, it's just going to sail out of bounds.
Just landed about, 12 feet high on the fence of the field. So that's very representative of how the wind can pick up a flying disc. Toronto against McMaster's zone. It was partially tipped tough, landing on the ground about 9 yards away from the goal zone. Great
nice
pressure
grab
by Toronto. Great grab. Toronto defending McMaster. Great around pass. Whoa. What an around break pass on the back end.
Yeah, what a throw by number 7, June Lee. Really centering her body, getting nice and low, getting below all that weather and throwing around the mark out into space. That is textbook ultimate right there.
And the mark on Lee's ankle, number 21. I mean, she was there. But just a great pivot, quick, crisp pivot, and then a nice back end in the space for McMaster's point. So we are tied at 3.
So University of Toronto going back downwind. We'll have McMaster going out there and setting up. We've seen a lot of sort of a 4-person zone, rabbit zone, as some teams call it, out there. So I wouldn't be too surprised if we see that again. However, there is a lot of wind. It's shifting. It's a little bit swirly. I wouldn't be surprised to see a zone because it's almost as hard to throw downwind as it is to throw upwind right now, especially that flick into the open side corner of the end zone. But we'll see what happens.
Number 19 from Toronto, Reeve Chan. Resetting to number 6, Mar Chan. Going long, floaty, and it's being caught by number 1. Feeding Dos Santos in the end zone. Here we are, Toronto quickly responding with their 4th point, holding on their O-line possession. 4-3 for Toronto.
Yeah, that was a really nice throw from Chan. We saw in the last point that she was on, she had a huge layout grab for a goal, but that nice backhand float out into space for DeSantos to hit the other DeSantos in the end zone. We love to see it, and it's the right kind of risk when we're going downwind like that to be able to loft something up in the air. And so now that's going to make things a little bit more challenging, setting a bit more of a distance between the two teams in the scoring.
We have a little over 20 minutes played so far in this final, which will last until the 70th minute, unless we go in a tiebreaker. Unless one of the two teams reaches the 13-point mark, which will set the game over. And whoever has 13 points will be declared 2021 Women's Champion for the CUUC 2021. Toronto looking to pull. Upwind.
So it's a short pull for McMaster. They'll be picking up round about the brick mark. Looks like one of their captains, number 1, Paul Mayer. Looking to the open side, and as we mentioned, those flicks just getting pushed down with the wind. So Goldstein will pick up for Toronto.
Zone defense by McMaster. Goldstein going flick, nice crisp flick, but miscued right after was number 16, Jenny Lee. Could not reach her receiver.
Paul Mayer back on the disc, looking for the backhand around, and again, just getting pushed down a little bit. I think maybe a bit of a rushed throw. We saw earlier players were really getting down low, engaging their core, making sure they're ready to throw instead of that almost like a panicked look. So I think if she can dial that in, maybe once halftime comes, practice some of those downwind throws. They're almost as challenging as the upwind ones.
Number 5 by Toronto catching that kind of Hail Mary throws by Goldstein. Goldstein still flicking it along the sideline. Some contact, but no damage, no call. Goldstein again. She's going to put it long. Here she goes. And it's floating. And it's being almost caught by number 12. There was also number 5 who were standing by, but none of those two Toronto players. But there's a call. There's a contact. There was some contact. I think number 12, Jessica who were, I believe, the intended target for that Goldstein pass. So Goldstein has crossed all 70 yards with her long passes. So she started near her goal line, made the first pass almost halfway. She repeated that. After that, to get to the brick mark line. After that, she went for a bid for a long pass, about 20 yards in the end zone where the foul occurred. So there's some discussions. It's going back to Goldstein. Is she going to attempt another long pass? That's what we'll see in the next second. You see there's a lot of Toronto player in this half of the field. Let's see if they can clean this space up. We'll definitely need maybe some support. Goldstein going long again. And now this time cleanly defended by McMaster.
Nice body block. But since number 42, she caught it and she established her pivot foot, she'll have to go back into the end zone for where she established that pivot. And looking for anything, not a ton of movement from the McMaster stack. It's a very challenging spot to be in, especially if you're not expecting to have to take it, 5 yards deep into the end zone. So we're now back with the University of Toronto.
Goldstein attempting a short pass to the receiver, but it lands on the ground. Going long, McMaster. Will that be caught? Great catch, great hustling by number 42. Still some contact, some foul calling. Making sure everybody's okay. Everybody's okay. So we're back into play. McMaster 1 yard shy of a point. Just couldn't handle this one.
Yeah, that was a huge throw from McMaster and a great run, great effort from 42. Toronto now trapped in the corner right up on the sideline.
Goldstein once again. It seems she's successful only with 20-plus yard long passes. Floaty disc, number 16, Janie Lee. Going long, Toronto pushing in hard to get a break point. Was that caught? No. It was down. Seems like there was 3 Toronto receivers, and it seems like they looked to one another to say, oh, who's going to catch this? It landed on the ground. McMaster is expected to go long.
Yeah, and this has been a really long point here. I think both teams are feeling a little bit of fatigue sitting in, and it's hard to adjust those throws in the moment to notice that your teammates maybe aren't running as fast as they were 5 minutes ago.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so McMaster setting up this trap zone right on the sideline, a lot of pressure on Goldstein.
Goldstein going around, reaching for number 5. Toronto threatening for a break point, upwind, and here they have it. Toronto breaking McMaster's O-line for their 5th point and their 2nd break point of the game. What an effort. And we have to mention Goldstein really going around in that pass and making more than 30 yards long pass back and upwind to secure that point for Toronto. Amazing work.
And we've seen that as kind of the successful strategy across this entire tournament. It's the huck and pin. It's you have a handful of players on your team on any given line who will throw it no matter what. Sometimes you're not even looking for the color of the shirt on the opposite end of the field. You're just trying to get it as far away from your end zone as possible because you have a better chance of playing defense. And it's not the prettiest ultimate. It's not always the most efficient in that sense, but sometimes it's a lot easier to play a zone, to pin it and play a zone for a few yards versus having to play offense tic-tac-toe up the whole field.
Well, it's about adapting to the condition, and that's what both of these teams have done, and many of these teams have done in this weekend. CUUC Championship 2021. In the coffin corner, going long, it's floating, and it lands out of bounds. But as you very well mentioned, Naomi, that's the strategy here. Maybe not the prettiest ultimate, but hey, that's what you got to do. You got to do it. The Santos putting the disc back into play. That's number 6, Sarah Marr. Out of bounds. Will be McMaster disc. So McMaster had an amazing beginning of the game with the first point and the first break point. Great answer by U of T, who responded with 2 points and with a break point in there. But there's a happy hour in the middle of the field. McMaster is winning the happy hour contest. Going lateral.
It's a tough drop.
Los Santos going long. Floating. Mar was the target. And the disc was not even on the ground that Toronto was screaming, set it, set the zone.
Yeah, that front cone is so difficult to get it off of. The best option is almost always to get it as far away from where you're currently standing. Wouldn't be surprised to see a hammer go up or a big loopy throw like that.
Goes to the
No
brick
surprise
line.
there.
Dos Santos just flicking it. But it's a turnover. McMaster 7 yards away from an offense hold after they just got broken on the previous point. Toronto with a zone defense.
McMaster.
Rabbit with 2 person on each side, really preventing the long throws.
McMaster showing a lot of patience, putting it out into space, but Britt DeSantos comes down with it.
Toronto on the doorstep. Another point confirmed, and that will be their 6th point and the 2nd break point in a row. So Toronto having scored the last 3 points of the game. They're now ahead 6-3 in this women's grand final CUUC 2021.
So if anyone missed our last stream, we were watching the University of Montreal take on Queen's University in the open final with a big win from Montreal, which was a team that came in seated much lower, I believe, than Queen's Ultimate, and both teams having kind of surprises in the weekend, especially Montreal with a ton of upsets, a ton of single-point wins, and they came out with a gold. So congratulations to both of those teams, but especially to Montreal for their 6-0 weekend, all wins.
Yeah, Montreal initially seeded number 3, while Queens was initially seeded 5. But regardless of their seeding, Queen really had a tough time on Saturday, coming out with an 0-3, while Montreal did the opposite. They did 3-0. So very, very interesting output. And I think on this other, in this open final, we saw Montreal really taking a lead in the first half. Very similar to what we're seeing with Toronto in this women's final. So scoring those break point without, McMaster actually have 1 break point. But still, similar pattern. Will that be a similar output? Well, right now, still too close to call.
So we'll have, coming out of this timeout, we'll have McMaster on offense, looking to score on the right-hand side of your screen. That's the downwind end zone. Right at this moment, there's less wind than there has been. Could be better, could be worse. And then we'll have the University of Toronto pulling upwind. And so we'll see how this pull goes. They've kind of struggled with having deep pulls. A lot of pulls have landed kind of less than their half mark, which is an advantage to McMaster. But that's a nice one, almost reaching the brick mark. And McMaster will pick up, looking deep right away. And that's a nice throw out into space. Looks like number 19, Reeve Chan, got a little piece of that, pushing it even deeper. So McMaster will set up their zone now, and Toronto will look to convert on offense.
So number 19, Reeve Chan, putting the disc back into play. 4-person cup by McMaster, preventing the long throws. Goldstein, she likes to fire it long. Looking for an option. Will she crank it up? Backhand or flick? It's a flick in the space. Time was running out. She had to attempt something, but turnover favoring McMaster in the red zone. McMaster haven't scored for a little while now.
McMaster looking into the end zone, avoiding the poach and hitting the break side. I believe that's number 42. She's been a great receiver for this team all game. That's Allison Cowenberg. And so McMaster back on the board, closing the gap slightly, but Toronto still leads 6-4.
So great response by McMaster after Toronto having scored the last 3 points. So great relief for McMaster. Will now be defending against Toronto. We have more than 30 minutes played so far in this final, heading towards halftime. 4 observers are on duty for this final. Just like to take a few seconds to congratulate all the Ultimate Canada organization for setting up such a wonderful event. You know, so many things to think about, and just add a layer of pandemic on top of that. Not just a washing hand, validating that everybody has their vaccine, making sure everybody wear masks where you need to wear masks. So congratulations for this great duty, and of course doing all of that short staff. So congratulations. Going long, Toronto. And when I say long, I mean long. And when I mean long, I mean out of bounds.
Yeah, so McMaster will pick up to the top of the end zone. That's number 25, Quinn McPherson, one of the captains on this McMaster team that's helped this team get so far in this tournament into the final. So they'll be going up against that 4-person zone, that diamond zone from Toronto. Not a lot of options, and going over the top, that's a tough one. But an incredible grab by number 16 on McMaster.
Toronto claims that it was down, though. Was that got up or down? Discussion.
So it looks like it was retracted, so it is going to come back in.
Great
McMaster
spirit.
moving the disc off onto the sideline. Looking for options. There aren't a lot of them. And a bit of contact on the defense from the deep defender on Toronto, number 7, DeSantos, but it will be a turnover.
Toronto going long, floating this. It's being caught with authority in the air. Toronto securing that offense possession, scoring their 7th point. They're leading 7-4, and I believe that will lead up to a halftime break. Both teams are gathering. So yes, it will be a halftime. So we're at approximately at the 35 minutes point. So Toronto leading 7-4. We'll have a short break and we'll be back in a minute or so.
Welcome back. It is the second half of the gold medal game here in the women's division in Brampton. Beautiful, breezy Brampton. 2021, the Canadian University Ultimate Championships. We have the University of Toronto in blue and the McMaster University in white. It does look like there was an offside call from the observers, so we'll just take note that may impact the teams later in the game. But for now, McMaster is setting up on offense in their vertical stack on the sideline. But Toronto is putting up a zone.
Squeezing McMaster on the sideline. Let's see when that long pass will be gone. Here it goes. Caught.
That's a nice read by number 45 on McMaster. With 7 in the middle. Not a lot of options. No bail option for number 7 there, but she looks into the end zone. I think it's a nice shot, but just that far or the close side corner, very tricky to hit the flick properly with the wind. So it's going to be a turnover. Toronto taking over from the front end zone corner, and they will have a full field to go up against this 4-person McMaster zone.
Goldstein with the disc. Cranking up. Whoa. Slick backhand blade to find her teammate on the sideline. Goldstein again. Sharp right hand flick. Centering the disc. Oh, there was some contact. Jamie Chung claims she was her opponent hit her end while she was attempting to catch the disc. Observers are already in discussion while the two players are still trying to figure this out. Toronto's leading 7-4. They have scored 3 break points in the first half while McMaster has only 1. So still some discussion going around. It was a close call. Hard to tell from where we stand.
So the observers are going to agree with the foul.
I guess it goes back to thrower, so contested foul. If I'm reading this right. We're back into play. But quick turnover. So McMaster a few yards away from the goal line.
And an inside shot. Paul Mayer to number 7, June Lee, and that is a goal for McMaster. So bringing it a little bit closer, coming out of half, 7-5, Toronto leads.
Okay, wait a minute. She did an inside-out flick, breaking the mark around that. That was an amazing pass,
I believe. Yeah, it was, I think, a bit of a soft break because she got in between the defender.
Still.
But it was onto the break side of the field. Nice throw.
Nice throw.
A bit scary in this wind. I'm not sure I would attempt it myself, but.
Well, I would have not for sure, but I don't have her skills for sure. That's obvious. So
that's an important, very important goal for McMaster to keep this game within reach. As we've mentioned previously on the stream, these are very short games, only 70 minutes long. Each team has 2 timeouts per half. So I think we still have 2 per side for this half of Ultimate. It's the last half of Ultimate in the college season. But just as an update, we have seen the bronze medal game on the men's side. So that was Manitoba versus Waterloo. Manitoba coming out on top, 10-8. So they will go home with a bronze medal. And then on the women's side, that game is currently happening on the further fields away from us, and that is UVic taking on Queens for the bronze medal in the women's division.
Congratulations to Manitoba Open's team for their bronze medal. McMaster, it's a hawk fest, responding to Toronto's long pass. and it lands on the ground. So Toronto going back with a long pass flick, but landing out of bounds.
So both teams looking a little frantic, just trying to get it away from their end zone. I think this, now that Toronto will be able to set whatever defensive look they're wanting, it will slow down the movement a little bit here, but we may see another huck yet. McPherson with a disc. Looking out into the middle, into space, but no one in white can track it down, so Toronto will have a shot just about 10 yards outside of the end zone.
Dos Santos calling a timeout.
And there it is.
In a good possession. Didn't we mention a few minutes ago that the wind was kind of quieting down? Did we mention that?
I think I need to stop talking about the weather altogether because I thought it was going to rain. We saw some rain off in the distance, but it seems like the story of the day is that the weather is going to continue to be unpredictable.
I think the weather experts are going nuts over their prediction. So 7-5. Toronto leading over McMaster.
Toronto.
Well, over 45 minutes were played so far out of 70.
Toronto pretty much in the middle of the field, about 10 yards outside of the end zone. We're going to have Britt DeSantos on the disc with Reeve Chan as her offset bail, and then Crystal DeSantos out in front, isolated, just trying to score a goal here.
Family goal, maybe. Who knows? It happened before, I think, to end the first. There you go. Sister Brittany feeding Sister Crystal with a lefty high release. Well, that probably makes mom and dad proud, wouldn't they? I would be proud if my two daughters would make a pass for a point like that.
Yeah, that was a huge dig by Crystal DeSantos in the end zone to keep that disc alive.
Toronto leading by 3, 8-5. Second half of this women's championship game. Even though Toronto is leading on the scoreboard, I gotta give a cheering lead to McMaster. It seems like the stands, they kind of quieted down, but still their sideline is still very, very positive and loud and cheering. We love it.
McMaster receiving, looking to score downwind. We have some of our usual suspects in Lee and Paul Mayer looking to make something work. But I'm sure we can anticipate some sort of zony look from Toronto here because, as we know, the wind is still pretty gusty, making those downwind throws challenging to predict until after it comes out of your hand. But that is a really great rolling pull from Toronto, one of the deeper pulls that we've seen in this game. And McMaster playing catch with Toronto for a turnover.
She has to flip it, but it was partially tipped off by number 42 from McMaster. Turnover, McMaster. About 7 yards away from midfield.
Nice grab by 42. On the sideline, not a ton of options here. She is looking to put it out into space and almost into the hands, but just tipped by the Toronto player. So U of T is going to be back on O here.
Zone defense by McMaster. Finding a great hole right in the middle. The Santos could not handle that pass. Turnover. McMaster's O-line looking to secure that possession. Flicking it long into space. Lots of people. Could not handle that above the head pass.
So it looks like...
What was a call? I think it's on the receiving end. So we're claiming what's the output? It seems that it's a. We're not too sure where to put the disc back into play, but it seems like uncontested foul. So it's a McMaster disc.
Yeah, so she'll just have to take it right on the end zone where she came out. And nice control with that throw there into the hands of number 1, Paul Mayer, one of the captains on McMaster. And that is another goal for Mac, closing the gap, 8-6, Toronto leads.
McMaster hanging on after trailing 7-4 at halftime. They started the second half on offense, scoring the first point, so making it a 2-point game, and then Toronto scored to make it 8-5, but McMaster now making it again a 2-point game.
Toronto's O-line back out there. We have Britt DeSantos, Tayama Lyle, Chris Mar, Reeve Chan. The usual suspects here. A lot of talent from the Toronto women's system. All Sixers players, all juniors players that went through the Toro system. So great to see that in play here in Brampton in this gold medal game. McMaster as well. Now they will be on defense, pulling up wind, trying to get that pull as deep as possible to give them the advantage. And there it is. That's a pull past half. That's going to hang plenty of time for the zone to set up.
McMaster trying to deny the long throw by Toronto. Great job. Oh, great bid here, but still holding on. Toronto. Great pass in the space. Now it's Liao with the disc, looking long, but resetting to number 6, Mar. Finding 25, Tadisi. Quickly resetting to Chan. Chan. Is she going long? No. Feeding Tadisi. Right on the brick mark. Liao. Tadisi again. Doing a great job at inside cuts. Giving her handlers some option. Chan. Feeding number 6. Catching that is. Confirmed by the observers. And yes, UFT scoring. But oh, it seems like the landing was pretty hard. But it's kind of a trademark by Brittany DeSantos. Those lay out D to catch a disc. And she has no fear of how hurtful it can be.
Yeah, no, Britt DeSantos is always a fantastic player to watch. She is a thrower in her own class, but also a receiver. We've seen her lay out time and time again, and we've seen her put a lot of defensive pressure here, playing the deepest in a zone, and she's been a key player on this team after spending a full weekend trying out for Team Canada. It's pretty impressive to see her still leaving it all out on the field.
And she had played on Team Canada a few times right now. And one thing you can be sure of is if Britt DeSantos is on Team Canada, there will be a highlight of Britt DeSantos, either laying out or making crazy defense. So she's such an amazing athlete. Proud Canadian athlete. But in the meantime, UFT leading by 3, 9-6, second half of the game. We are about a few minutes shy of the 60th minute of play. Great defense by number 5 by Toronto.
Yeah, McMaster just looking to put it deep. We've said it before, we'll say it again. I don't mind that look at all. Number 50, Wind, putting it all the way. But now Toronto breaking out of the zone.
Goldstein once again going long successfully. Number 16, Lee. with the disc. Resetting. Toronto in control. Unfortunate drop. McMaster going long. Faking it. Well marked, but still going long. It's being brought down while we have a nice rainbow on the right hand side of the field. Still windy condition. Goldstein. 4-person mark. That has usually doesn't stop Goldstein from going long. But now her teammate is in trouble. She is going long and it's being caught. And it's still live. Number 12, Jessica Hu. Just about 3 yards into the red zone. Going flick. Break side. Oh! Unfortunately could not be handled by number 5 by U of T. McMaster at their own goal line. Forces flick near the sideline. There's a Toronto defender way behind, wanted to ensure that there will not be any long threats.
Yeah, Toronto leaving number 51 free, so they are sitting deep and throwing one out into space. That's a nice look, but Goldstein in the area shuts it down.
Goldstein does it all. She plays defense. She goes long. She handles. She breaks the mark. Amazing players. So Goldstein looking for space in that 4-person zone. Some slight contact. Oh, miscued by Toronto. McMaster 4 yards away from the end zone. Right in the middle. Tons of space. Flick, break side. And McMaster making that game a 2-point game once again. Hanging on. But Toronto still leading 9-7.
Yeah, there's that inside flick shot again from number 1 on McMaster to number 7 on McMaster. I think that's probably a throw that they have a lot of practice in, and it's working. So good for them. I think now U of T will be going downwind here on offense, but I'm sure we'll see that big 4-person zone from McMaster.
So the usual suspect will be on Toronto's O-line. So almost an hour into this game, which is intended to be 70 minutes long. So McMaster still trailing by 2. Now would be a good time to score a breakpoint up win for McMaster, which they were able to do at the first point of the game, going break up win, but they haven't been able to do a second one ever since, while Toronto have scored 3. Lyle going around her mark. Mar feeding, I believe it's the Santos Crystal, feeding her sister Brittany. Going around, faking, dishing it, pass and run, great action, great disc movement by Toronto. And observers are confirming Toronto's 10th point, double digit for U of T, securing a 3-point lead late in this championship game. So pressure is on McMaster at this point.
Yeah, certainly. A 10-7 lead is a little bit daunting, I think, for McMaster. But at the same time, we have to recognize they came out in this game so strong. They've had a few really, really tough battles, including like a single point win over UVic in the semifinal, and Toronto as well, having a tough weekend, dropping a couple of games yesterday to Queens, and one of their other games in pool play. Extra firepower come back in the DeSantis sisters. If we were to look at a stat sheet, we would note that they've been responsible for a significant number of yards, goals, assists, etc. So it's great to have them back, and they're being super impactful here for Toronto.
Sent us to Goldstein, could not handle that pass. Turnover, McMaster on the doorstep of the goal line.
Yeah, number 1 Palmer looking for 50. Bit of a surprise play there. I think she might be calling a foul.
Maybe there was a travel, but look at that pass. Was that like 60 yards upwind by Britt DeSantos? Still, there was a call prior to that pass, but still.
Yeah, I think there was a call.
Upwind.
A call in the end zone off the defensive block on number 50 for McMaster. So Zoe Wind. I think there's quite a bit of contact between both Crystal and Brittany DeSantos. So she's saying that her hand was hit, and that's why she wasn't able to make the catch.
I think we're going to reach out to the observers to resolve this.
And they're calling it as a goal. So
McMaster goal.
Foul is upheld, so that will be a goal for McMaster. So that will be 10-8 for Toronto.
McMaster hanging on. Lagging 2 points behind Toronto, but still they're hanging on. Their biggest problem right now is the clock. There's less than 5 minutes remaining to this game. Will they be able to score a break point? Well, now would be perfect timing. And when we say now, we say, well, sooner than later.
Yeah, it'll be important for McMaster to try and convert quickly here if they can get a quick D. They don't want Toronto to be taking a million passes while working it up the field, because that's just chewing up the clock. So hopefully they can make a quick transition and get a defensive block right off the bat.
McMaster holding the disc, about to pull. Great pull, floating, long. Toronto on the receiving end, quickly. Oh, I think DeSantos hesitated. She wasn't sure if she was the intended receiver or not. She hesitated, and it's a turnover for McMaster going long. DeSantos with authority in the air. Exchanging the disc. Great pass and run action by U of T. Going sideways. Mar going to DeSantos. Crystal. And yes, again. Great connection between the two sisters. U of T scoring their 11th point. And looking to be a few minutes shy from a CUUC 2021 championship title. So what a game by both of these teams, and what a tournament did they have. And still we can only be pleased by the parity of all those teams. The top 8 teams are very, very competitive. And as you mentioned, Toronto always had an amazing program to develop elite players, both in the women and the men's division. And that happened over the course of many, many years of hard work. So congratulations to the Toronto community for hosting it and allowing those great athletes to become amazing ultimate player, shining not only here at University Championship, but shining also on the international scene. Goldstein with the disc, looking to.
So we have number 50, Zoe Wind, looking deep right away.
I feel like McMaster's handler, she didn't even bearing looking if there was a receiver out there. She just took it and whams it as far as she can, leaving her teammate a few seconds to set a zone of 4-person. Miscued by Toronto on the goal line.
So we'll see if we have another handler strike up the line here to that inside look, but Palmer going and a really nice grab, one-handed grab from McMaster. That puts us at 11-9, but what a play. Really, really nice grab.
I know we're not supposed to like it, but I like a little disc spiking, especially when the pass was that amazing and with a great grab. Just celebrating. So Toronto walking up, getting ready to receive McMaster's pull. Few minutes away from the 70th minute of this championship game. Women's division, McMaster would have to score a break point, and they would have to score it very, very quickly. We're just hearing the horn.
And just an update from the bronze medal game in the women's division. It looks like Queens is leading over Victoria 10-7. And with the horn going off just now, that will likely be a bronze medal for Queens.
And it looks like it will be a gold medal for Toronto. McMaster hanging on there, zone defense. Nice high release pass. Just love the way Tadisi is offering herself as an inside target whenever there's a zone being played against Toronto. Toronto resetting in the middle. Lyle flicking it on the doorstep. Dos Santos in the middle. Lyle pivoting, faking, resetting. Dos Santos to her sister. And that will put an end to this final game. Toronto earning the gold medal in the women's division for the 2021 University Ultimate Championship.
Yeah, what a great game. Really exciting plays from both sides. The game opening up with a break-up win from McMaster. We love to see it. What a fun game of Ultimate to watch. It's great to see as well McMaster celebrating. They know that they've done a great job here this weekend. So the gold medal will go to the University of Toronto on the women's side, silver going to McMaster, and likely the bronze going to Queens. So thank you so much for everyone who has tuned into our coverage this weekend. Thank you to Ultimate Canada for putting on this tournament. And thank you from both myself, Naomi Redmond, and my co-commentator today, Etienne Fournier, to everyone at home who tuned in.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks Naomi for your amazing work, amazing commentating. And thanks also to Thomas Stanton who joined the color commentating and co-host those webcasts on Friday and Saturday. So thanks, Thomas, for your great work, and thanks for Ultimate Canada for this great opportunity. Merci à tous d'avoir été des nôtres. Et on vous donne rendez-vous à un prochain rendez-vous du Ultimate canadien. Probablement l'été prochain. C'est à suivre. Merci beaucoup d'avoir été des nôtres. À la prochaine.